Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Anna and today I'm going to be going through all of the fantasy books that I have read in the past almost 3 years. I think I went through 2022, 2023, and then everything I've read so far in 2024. My original plan was to somehow tier rank all of the fantasy books I have ever read, and then I realized how much of an impossible task that would actually be and how the video would probably be about 2 hours. So I decided to just stick to the books that I've read more recently and can actually remember what they're even about. And it ended up rounding off to 74 books. So this might still be a bit long. I'm not going to give a description for any of the books. I'm just going to go off of what I remember and rank them on my little tier list that I have here. And I think this is going to be really fun for me. And I'm really curious to see how I end up ranking all of these books because there's some of my all-time favorite books in here, as well as some that I have absolutely despised. So let's go ahead and see. And when it comes to my tier lists, I have Would Die for These Books at the very, very top. These are the books that I want to physically own one day in my life, and I love these books. They're part of me. I will forever recommend these books, and I would reread these books till the day I die. 10 out of 10 perfection. Beautiful book. Loved it. But maybe it's just not my favorite, if that makes sense. Under that, we have Great, but I wouldn't reread. So I did end up really liking this book. I just don't think I would ever take my time to reread it and would prioritize new books or my all-time favorites over it. Next, we have All Vibes, Not Much Else, which I put in there because there's some specific books in here that I wouldn't say I enjoyed, and I wouldn't particularly recommend it to anyone, but the vibes were there, and I can appreciate either the writing style, the atmosphere, the setting, some of the characters. I just wouldn't say it's a great book. Underneath, we have Why. Simply, why was this made? Why was this published? I don't understand the hype around it. I didn't like it. And underneath that, we have Jail. Books that I hated, books that I would not recommend, books that I struggled to finish. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we have The Unmaking of June Pharaoh, which, great, but wouldn't reread. Yes, this is a fantasy, historical fantasy, magical realism, time travel, witches in the family. It was good, but I don't think I'd reread it ever. Next, we have The Starling House. Oh, this is hard. I really liked The Starling House. I own a physical copy of it. My best friend gave it to me. I love Alex E. Harrow. 10 out of 10 perfection. I did really enjoy this book. Would not die for it, however. And I could potentially see myself rereading it, but it's just not high on the priority list. Next, we have In the Lives of Puppets. This is a great but wouldn't reread. I did really enjoy it. It's more of a fantasy / sci-fi, but I would categorize it more under fantasy. TJ Klune. It was good, just not my favorite by him. Next, we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn. This is, oh my god, would I die for this book? Or no, 10 out of 10 perfection. I love this book. I would definitely give it a reread, especially because the second one is out. The third one is coming out next year. And I could just see myself rereading that series at some point, but not one of my all-time favorites. The Six Deaths of the Saint by Alex E. Harrow. I would die for this book. I loved this. And it's not even a book. It's a short novella. It's about 36 pages long. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Love, perfection, beautiful, the writing. To be able to put that much story into 36 pages and to be able to make me cry in 36 pages, it was really good. Next, we have The Deep. This was also a very short book. Great, but I wouldn't reread. I did really enjoy it though. Dark, sirens / mermaids. It's very dark. We have Boy of Chaotic Making here, but that is the second or third book in a series. So I'm going to go ahead and try and find the first one. Here we go. Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. 10 out of 10 perfection. I ended up loving this book. It's very cozy fantasy, set in the 1800s, I believe. Historical cozy fantasy, enchanted houses. There's a little bit of a romance in there. I loved it. Then we have Uncertain Magic, which is the second one, which I would put in great, but wouldn't reread simply because I don't remember that one as well. And then we have Boy of Chaotic Making, which I did really end up liking. So, ooh, I don't know if I would reread this one. I think it's gonna go in great, but wouldn't reread once again. I got the arc for the fourth one though, and I'm so excited to get to reading it. I did really enjoy this little series, and I'm excited to see where the author continues to take it. But I think the first one just stuck with me the most. Next, we have My Throat and Open Grave. Sadly, all vibes, but not much else. There's a young adult horror fantasy, and the spooky vibes were there. The atmosphere was good, but the plot just left me wanting a lot more. It's a bit disappointing. The Warm Hands of Ghosts. Great, but wouldn't reread. This is once again a historical fiction fantasy set in World War I, and the atmosphere was like tangible. Like you could almost reach out and touch how well it was described. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And I hadn't read a historical fiction, like a war historical fiction, in a while, and this did it for me. It was good. Next, we have When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. This is another little novella. Would die for this book. So good. Veronica Roth really surprised me. She's the author of Divergent and that little trilogy. We all know Divergent. We all read Divergent. It was good. It was fun. At least the first book. The second two were not the best, to say the least. But When Among Crows, and there's another little novella by her called Arc Conspirator, I'm pretty sure, which I also really enjoyed, but that one's sci-fi, so I'll be going through that in my next video when I rank all the sci-fi books I've read in the past few years. But I did really love When Among Crows. It was just so well done. I simply wish it had been longer. I think I would have loved this book 10 times more if it had been a full-fledged novel. But either way, I'm putting it in Would Die for this book because it's just so good. Go ahead and read it. There's a little bit of a gay romance in there too. It's perfect. The Library at Mount Jar. Ooh, where does this go? Honestly, 10 out of 10 perfection. I feel like I did not make a category for this book. Oh no. See, I do want to reread this book at some point. Do I want to reread this book? No. This is going in great, but wouldn't reread. Yes, I don't know if I want to reread that, honestly. It was a nightmare. If you want to read a book that makes you feel like you're stuck in a nightmare that you cannot wake up from, read The Library of Mount Jar. Next, we have Piranesi, 10 out of 10 perfection. I love this book. It is worth the hype. Magical realism, endless corridors, beautiful conversations, beautiful writing. This one also feels like you're stuck in a dream, but it's not a nightmare. It's a nice dream, kind of. Go ahead and read it. It's really good. I would recommend Piranesi. Next, we have One for My Enemy, and this is One for My Enemy. This is by the same author of The Atlas 6, and this is going in all vibes, not much else. This is a urban fantasy, a bit of a Romeo and Juliet modern retelling, I would say, or inspired in Romeo and Juliet. It was okay. The vibes were okay. I couldn't connect with any of the characters. Could not tell you how that book ended. Yep. Six of Crows. Perfection. And when I say Six of Crows, I mean Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I just didn't end up downloading the other picture for some reason, but both of them would be in 10 out of 10 perfection. Oh, is this Would Die for this book? I do love these characters. Oh, I'm so conflicted. I might put this here, and I would put Shadow and Bone in great wouldn't reread. I did really enjoy that trilogy, but it just felt a lot more young adult, and I ended up connecting so much more with the Six of Crows characters. And I love Six of Crows. I just love them. But yeah, I love them. I'm leaving them there. The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo once again. Oh, Leigh Bardugo, did you disappoint me with this one? All vibes, not much else. Not in why. That one goes in why. I really did not enjoy it. I feel like it had so much potential, and she focused so much on making it more historically accurate and adding so many details in there that I did not care for. As someone whose first language is Spanish also, I just was a bit thrown out of the story by how Spanish was implemented in the book. So yeah. Jade City, 10 out of 10 perfection. Jade War, this is the second one in the trilogy, 10 out of 10 perfection. I want to own these physical books. I love them. I cried. Incredible world building, urban fantasy, family dynamics, politics, war, cool magic system. I really, really like those books, and I'm so excited to read the last one, but also putting it off because I know it will emotionally destroy me. Next, we have Can't Spell Treason Without T. People are going to hate me for this, but jail. I did not like this book whatsoever. It was incredibly disappointing, and I will not be continuing the series. Next on the list, we have A Master of Jinn. 10 out of 10 perfection. I love this book. I have talked so much about it already. This is a historical fantasy. Historical fantasy if Egypt was steampunk in the 1800s, 1900s, and magical beings. I loved it. Perfection, sapphic romance, really cool plot, a little bit of a murder mystery in there. Really good. The Shadow of the Gods. We are going to put The Shadow of the Gods in 10 out of 10 perfection. I almost put it and would die for these books, but I want to finish the trilogy first before I decide whether it becomes one of my all-time favorite books or not. But for now, 10 out of 10 perfection. Norse mythology, beautiful atmosphere, great characters, great world. I love how big the monsters are in these books. Definitely give it a go. Next, we have The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I'm going to put in 10 out of 10 perfection, and Somewhere Beyond the Sea I would put in great, but I wouldn't reread. I did really enjoy both of them. However, I do think the first one is just slightly better, and Beyond the Sea was really good, but I don't think I reread it. Starter Villain. This is a bit of a... Oh, I need like a tier in between great, but wouldn't reread, and all vibes, not much else. It's gonna go in all vibes, not much else. I did really enjoy this book. No. It's gonna go in great, but wouldn't reread. This was really fun. This was fun. It made me laugh quite a few times. It was okay. It was good. It was good. We'll just leave it there. Maybe all vibes, not much else. No, let's leave it in all vibes, not much else. All vibes because this made me laugh so much, but I just didn't love it to the point where I would be constantly recommending this book. While all the ones in great but wouldn't reread, I would be recommending them. If you want a really fun book though, low stakes, fun, cats that talk, great but wouldn't reread. There's cats. Okay. A Gathering Dark. This is a little anthology of horror stories. Great but wouldn't reread. It was a great way to get myself started into the horror genre for the spooky season, and it worked. It really worked. There was only, I think, 1 or 2 stories in there that I didn't really like, but the rest were pretty good. So yeah, it's very much a young adult horror, if that makes sense. But it worked for me. That's the kind of young adult that I enjoy. This Fatal Kiss, young adult that I don't enjoy. Oh my god. I'm struggling so much where to put this book. It would probably go in Y. I think 15, 16-year-old me would have enjoyed it a lot more. And I think my expectations were so high going into it. The cover is beautiful. And I just thought it was going to focus so much more on the atmosphere and the magical aspects of it than the silly young adult romance. So I'm going to leave it there. The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. Great, but wouldn't reread. I do really enjoy this author. I read The Spirit Bears Its Teeth, and then I just finished Hell Followed With Us, which is going to go again in great, but wouldn't reread. These are very dark, very morbid, very gory, lots of body horror, lots of trigger warnings going into these books. Everything and anything dark is in these books, and they're very explicit, but they're very well written, and I think the author has done an incredible job with both of them. I don't see myself rereading them though, but I did really enjoy both of them, and I thought they were great books. He does a really good job at creating that very dark and gory atmosphere whilst being able to keep the characters feeling like true, real teenagers. So yeah, I really like those. A Dark and Drowning Tide. If you watched my last video, this was so disappointing. All vibes, not much else. Sadly, the first half of the book, great. Second half of the book felt so flat. This felt rushed. If the author had made this into a duology, it would have been so much better. Anyways, Under the Whispering Door. Would die for this book. I love this. This is my favorite by TJ Klune. Gorgeous, beautiful, such a good conversation around grief. Once again, there's a bit of a gay romance in there, and it's just, oh, I don't know. It was just so good, so heartwarming, made me cry. Night Circus, 10 out of 10 perfection. Loved it. However, The Starless Sea. Would die for this book. I would 100% die for The Starless Sea. It's one of my all-time favorites, if not my all-time favorite standalone novel. I feel like I can't say that. Yes. But yeah, I loved it. If you want magical realism, books within books, stories within stories, once again, feeling like you're stuck in this beautiful dream that doesn't end, worlds underneath magical libraries, and found family and friendship, and a little gay romance in there. The Starless Sea. Next, we have Fable and Namesake, which all vibes, not much else. I do love the covers. I love how they fit together. Oh, doesn't that just look gorgeous? These are by the same author of The Unmaking of June Farrow, but ooh, okay, I don't know why I did that. Anyways, I did enjoy these. These are fantasy, mermaids, pirates. I read these quite a while ago, 2022, I believe, and I can't tell you much about them. Very young adult, very fun. I did really like them, but oh, see, now I feel like I should put them in Great But Wouldn't Reread. I don't want to separate them, but I would probably put Fable in Great But Wouldn't Reread and Namesake and All Vibes Not Much Else. But I don't think I want to separate them because then I'm going to destroy this beautiful thing that the books have done here. So I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah. Next we have The Cat Who Saved Books. Great But Wouldn't Reread. Yes, this was really cute. Japanese translation. My boyfriend got me this book. I really liked it. If you like a little bit of magical realism, talking cats, once again, I guess if there's a talking cat in it, like the starter villain and the cat who saved books, I'm going to put it in great, even if the rest of the story wasn't that good, simply because there's a cat in it that talks. So if you like cats, if you like books, you would like that little short book. Our Wives Under the Sea. Great, wouldn't reread. Really good atmosphere, creepy, eerie, weird as hell vibes, but I thought the writing was gorgeous. And I think it's a really good conversation on relationships and grief and having to come to terms with the fact that sometimes the person you fall in love with is no longer there and having to navigate what that means for your relationship. A Darker Shade of Magic, 10 out of 10 perfection. I have not finished the series. I really want to, and I loved the first one, so putting it there. Then we have some short little novellas by Leigh Bardugo, which I'm going to put both in, which is The Witch of Duva and Demon of the Wood, and I'm putting them both in All Vibes Not Much Else because I could not tell you what these were about. I think Demon of the Wood is about the Darkling, but as a young boy, and All Vibes because the atmosphere was then there. The second one, Demon in the Wood, is a graphic novel and the art is beautiful, but I could not tell you much else. Carmilla. Perfection? Yes, I would reread that, and I did really enjoy it. And this came out before Dracula, but it's not talked nearly as much. Sapphic Vampires. So good. Stone Blind. This is Greek mythology. And this is going to go in Great But Wouldn't Reread. I did really enjoy it. It's Medusa's story told from her point of view. and I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. But when it comes to Greek mythology, which I love, there's just so many other books I would prioritize over rereading that one, but I would highly recommend. I would also recommend it as an audiobook. I think it was really well done. Fourth Wing. Oh God. Fourth Wing is going to go on all vibes, not much else. I would have loved this book if I had been 16. It was still fun. I did still really enjoy it, but you know, we all know Fourth Wing. Iron Flame, Jail Time. Hated that book. Struggled so much to finish it. Will not be continuing the series. Blood Over Bright Haven. This is 100% going in. Nope, not there. Going in. Would die for this book. Talked about this book endlessly. It is gorgeous. It is perfection. I need to read the other book this author has published, and I will read everything else she ever does publish. And I've only read one book by her, and that's how much I love this book. It was originally self-published, and it just got traditionally published, and I love that for her. This book is just perfection. Heart of Stone. Great, but wouldn't reread. This was a very unique and weird little book I found. It's once again historical fiction, vampires, a little bit of a gay romance in there. I think the main character, is the assistant to a vampire, and then they fall in love. I don't remember very well, but I loved it, so it's gonna go there. Now we have a couple little novellas by Alex E. Harrow, which I did really like, but they're all gonna go in Great but Wouldn't Reread, which are Thornhedge, A Mirror Mended, and A Spindle Splintered. They're all fairy tale retellings, but with a bit of a modern twist, and I thought they were really fun reads, as well as What Moves the Dead and What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher are also going in Great but Probably Wouldn't Reread. The first one is a retelling of The House of the Fall of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, and I honestly think T. Kingfisher did it better than Edgar Allan Poe. Just gonna throw that out there. And What Feasts at Night is its sequel, and they were really good. I did like these. They might even go in. Oh, were they perfection? 10 out of 10 perfection? No. I'm leaving them in Great, but I don't think I would reread. All of the books that I put in Great but wouldn't reread, I would still probably like to own these as books. I just wouldn't prioritize them, if that makes sense. In the Company of Witches, perfection. When the Crow's Away, Great but wouldn't reread. This is a little duology, cozy mystery, cozy mystery, murder mystery, fantasy, witches. Think Gilmore Girls meets Sabrina the Witch, and a little sprinkle of romance. Also a really good conversation around grief. I did really like those books. Half a Soul, all vibes, not much else. Really cute, once again, cozy fantasy. It was good. It just, yeah, I don't know. The vibes were there, not much else. Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This is also gonna go in all vibes, not much else. This is a young adult fantasy, almost middle grade young adult. And I thought the concept was beautiful, the world was beautiful, but maybe I'm just too old for it, sadly. Strange the Dreamer. Great, but wouldn't reread, simply because I didn't enjoy it enough to continue the series, sadly. But I do remember really enjoying it for what it was at the moment. And the magic in it is really, really cool. All about dreams and moths, and I cannot tell you much else. Gods? It was good. A Dowry of Blood. Great, but wouldn't reread. Sapphic vampires, poly vampires, fun, sexy times. The Atlas Six. Perfection. I'm one of those people, I think you either love or you hate the Atlas Six. I loved it, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the other two. Juniper and Thorn. This is exactly why I created all vibes and not much else, specifically for this book. Ava Reed. Ooh, she is a... I'm gonna have to change. It's getting way too hot in here. Sorry. Interruption. Little break.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Okay, sorry. Where were we? I had to change because it was getting too hot. Juniper and Thorn. Ava Reed. I understand the hype around Ava Reed because her writing is gorgeous. However, I did not like the way that she executes certain topics and certain themes. And that's why I'm putting Juniper and Thorn in All Vibes Not Much Else. This is a retelling of The Goose Girl, I think. That's not what it's called. Something like that. And I think she does a lot of retellings. And I don't think I will be reading more of her books, but the vibes were there and the writing was beautiful. Do not like the rest of it though. The Salt Grows Heavy. This is going in great but wouldn't reread. If you want dark mermaids, dark sirens, weird cults with creepy little children, and just a very eerie setting, The Salt Grows Heavy. It's also pretty short, I think. House of Salt and Sorrows. Why? First half of the book was pretty good. The second half of the book I really did not enjoy. There's a retelling of The 12 Dancing Princesses. If you are looking for gothic fantasy and you don't really care about the plot making sense, The House of Salt and Sorrow will not be continuing. The 10,000 Doors of January. Perfection. I love this book. I love Alex E. Harrow. It's so magical. It's so beautiful. Found family. I really liked it. Once again, it's a world full of stories and magic and possibilities and doors that open into other worlds, and so cool. The Traveling Cat Chronicles. Great, but wouldn't reread? Yes. Also a Japanese translation. It has a cat in it. What can I say? It was great. I loved it. The Raven Boys. Perfection. This one might end up going into Would Die for this book, but I am currently rereading it and I'm going to actually finish the series this time around and read the 4 of them. And once I finish them, I could potentially see them going into Would Die for these books. Just not quite yet because I need to finish the series. Gideon the Ninth. Would I die for Gideon? I would. I would die for Gideon. Even though I have not finished the series and I desperately need to reread Gideon the Ninth because even though I loved it and I would die for this book, I don't understand why. And I'm hoping that the second time reading it, I might get a bit more of what the hell is going on. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. All vibes, not much else. I once again just got disappointed by this book. I thought the concept was so cool, and I think the author could have done so much more with it. It kind of bothered me the route that the author chose to take with the narrative of this story. I feel like if you have the chance to live for hundreds and hundreds of years, she could have discovered a bit more. She could have traveled the world a bit more. She could have learned about different cultures. She could have maybe learned more languages. I don't know. Anyways, Legends and Lattice. I would die for this book. No, you're going up here. I love Legends and Lattice. This was my first introduction to cozy fantasy, and it opened my world to the genre of cozy fantasy, and I loved it. And Bookshelves and Bone Dust, the prequel, yes, is going in perfection. I thought it was really cute once again, but just not nearly as good as the first one, sadly. But still really good, and I would still want to own it. Silver in the Wood and Drowned Country. These are honestly perfection. This is a little duology, mystery, cozy, fantasy, magical forest, folklore. Really, really good. Once again, a bit of a gay romance in there, and I loved it. I love the vibe in this. I love the atmosphere. They're short, they're concise, they're perfection. The Caraval, Legendary, and Finale. I have not read the other trilogy that the author wrote, the Once Upon a Broken Heart, those books. I am meaning to, maybe at some point. My sister read them. Ray here on YouTube of Ray's Reads just finished reading them, and from what I'm getting, and I trust her opinion and I trust my sister's opinion, the Caraval ones are just better. So I'm not sure if I want to read the other 3. But anyways, Caraval, Legendary, and Finale. I'm going to put Caraval in perfection because I have reread this book. And even the second time reading it, I just loved it. It's the perfect young adult fantasy romance. And I say that because I originally read it when I was like 18, 19, and I loved it. Rereading it again in my early 20s, I still loved it. And I could see myself rereading this and it just holding that nostalgic effect to it. It immediately captures your attention and throws you into this magical fantasy, romance, mystery, and I just think it does such a good job at keeping you captivated throughout the whole novel. Legendary and finale, however, I'm gonna go ahead. Ooh, maybe Legendary is also perfection because we follow the second sister and I kind of liked her point of view better than Caraval, but because Caraval is the first one and it was just like the introduction to the world, I loved it. But finale, I'm gonna put in would rate but wouldn't reread. I don't think I would reread finale. I would probably reread Caraval and Legendary though. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that not that many books made it into jail, which I guess is a good thing. It means that I've been reading pretty good fantasy in the past couple of years. Go ahead and let me know if you would rate any of these in a different way. If you think my tier listing in here is completely wrong. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure if I fully agree with everything I've done, but we're gonna leave it at that. I hope you've enjoyed this video if you made it all the way to the end, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you all in my next video, which I'll be tier ranking all of the sci-fi books I've read in the past couple of years. So yeah, I'll see you all in my next video.